Hello and welcome to Heartcast, where Mr. Coastal's been kidnapped, we're scrambling, and penis. I'm Humphrey Erm.
And I'm Christian Claus.
Lifeline. Give me Bloodshot Volume 5. Get some! Alright. Honestly, I totally forgot that there was this little issue with this volume.
Okay.
Well, due to the latest Archer and Armstrong. So it's a bit kind of like, last thing I remember with Bloodshot was, him confronting a genius in the bathroom.
Right, yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh, so I didn't quite get it. And then like, right. So it's two issues of Bloodshot are in that volume.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. That's just me not thinking about it at the moment. But just kind of like, that was my last memory of the events of Bloodshot. So but I'm assuming the way you said there, you didn't think of it at all.
Well, I kind of saw that it was somewhat similar. Like I recognized it from somewhere, but I didn't put the connection together. I was just reading it, so I didn't really think much about it.
So all right, yeah, no, I just thought I'd put that out there, in case that was something.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, yes, as a whole, I really like this volume. It's a nice mixed bag. We basically get 3 stories in this volume.
Yeah, true. It's very packed, yeah.
Well, it's like I've told you, it's kind of how I wish, most of these comics would be. Yes, okay, here's an issue of this, or, here's an adventure of this. So, we get kind of a nice... I like the first one a lot. It's just, a nice little... Again, it's basically a superhero's story.
Yeah.
Then we get a nice, flashback thing with issue 0. And then, another kind of big shake-up with the last 2 issues. So would you agree with that it's a nice mix, or?
Yeah, as I said before, it's quite interesting the way that it's all set up. I mean, it felt very packed. That was what was so great about this volume. It didn't ever felt like there was any kind of filler in this. It was always the next thing right away. Even with the issue 0, it did feel very like it tied into the whole thing. And yeah, so I was pretty happy about it.
That's cool to hear. Considering also since Bloodshot hasn't been the top tier for you, I guess.
No, I mean it's still not. I mean I still am not so super happy with this comic. I mean it's not one that I would pick up by myself if we weren't doing this podcast. But it does have some cool concepts. I mean, I do like the whole hardcore thing that they're adding here, or the whole Bloodshot and hardcore. I like that dynamic, but probably only because I like hardcore. So Bloodshot's just kind of like an accessory to that.
So like I said, about checking out some of the original series, I think hardcore would be a great one to just, I have that volume as part of the Humble Bundle. So that could be a cool thing to have as a bonus episode or something.
Yeah, we could talk about doing that sometime.
I mean, I like them. I mean, I like all, pretty much most of Valiant. So it's hard for me to really tier list them.
Yeah, you're a real Valiant fanboy.
Yeah, no matter what they do. No, but it's not really. I mean, the only one I guess I never got super into was Dr. Mirage. So, and that's not really because it was bad. So I was this wasn't really speaking to me.
Yeah, but I guess that's kind of what a lot of comics are for me anyway, is that I mean, maybe it's just a problem with myself, is that I'm just not too excited about stuff like this. And I kind of need to have someone like you to kind of push me to experience or to actually read this thing, because again, today when I was reading this comic or this volume, I really didn't want to read it. I opened it up yesterday, and then I was just like, no, you know what? I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like reading it. And I guess that happens to a lot of stuff that I do. I mean, I really enjoy something a lot, but the novelty wears off so quickly to me that then I just stop and then I never get back into it. It's the same thing. I mean, I love Aquaman. I love it so much. But once I stop reading the comics for whatever reason, I'm waiting for the next month to come out, I don't have that support system that pushes me to read the next one. And so as far as I say to you or say on this podcast that I don't really look forward to reading the volumes, about halfway through the volume, I'm actually really enjoying it, no matter what the characters are. I mean, even with Bloodshot here, I don't really like Bloodshot, but by the halfway through, I was actually really enjoying it, even though there was a lot of text in this volume.
But I kind of
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was just, I saw one of the first pages, which was just a wall of text. I mean, sure, they had to get all this information out there, but god damn, that was a lot of text.
I'm probably thinking page 13.
Yeah, probably. I'm on 77 right now. Let me just scroll up here.
Yeah, it was like the breathing room. It's a breathing room.
Yeah. Yeah, Jesus Christ. That's like a fucking novel on there.
So that's true. But I feel in this case it makes sense, especially the setting as well. You know, I mean, these aren't just, some hero, superheroes or something. These are like an actual,
I'm not saying that it's wrong or that they did it wrong. It's so overwhelming. You open that page and you're just like, Jesus Christ. Okay, here we go. I mean, at least for me, I mean, it's so weird, this whole thing. I mean, I enjoy them, but then I also don't. And it's so weird. I mean, that's why I kind of like that we're doing this as well, is that I'm kind of getting more into comics thanks to you, because you're kind of pushing me to, well, because we're doing a show, I have to read these things. I can't just put off the show. And that's why we had such a long hiatus for that one time, because, I just never got around to reading the comics. But now I'm actually like pushing myself to actually do it every single week. And that's why we've had such a good update schedule for the past, man, how long has it been? Like,
I don't know. I mean,
we've been doing this regularly every single week, except for that 1 week when you were moving, for the past like half year or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going very quickly with it. Like, I've been checking with our sort of like inspiration, valiant effort.
Yeah.
So, and again, I mean, they kind of teetered off around, like, I think it was episode 53 or something. So okay. We're definitely, I mean, and they haven't updated it forever.
Yeah.
So, we'll definitely catch up soon enough, assuming they don't start, start again. So, but yeah, no, I'm also very happy with it.
But then we'll update twice a week.
Well, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, because you're not the one who has to edit it. But yeah, I mean, again, the characters are really great. Again, most of the time, it's the characters from Hardcore that are the good ones that I really like.
Well, Bloodshot's really just a badass. Like, he doesn't have too much on himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other ones have interesting ideas, considering the fact that they are, in a sense, not by nature flawed, but, they went for people who would quickly agree to this.
Yeah.
So, so they're either dying or have great improvements done to them. I mean, Vagabond had a great moment in the first, arc.
Yes, I was hoping that you would talk about that.
Yeah, no, I brought that up. I mean, it's such a weird thing, first of all, the whole suggestion mode.
Yeah.
That's immediately... I wouldn't say it's cheap, because you'd think that with psychic powers, that would probably be one of the quote-unquote simpler ones.
Yeah.
And as they say, it's not like, brain control. It's just apparently... Yeah, it just makes you more suggestible,
Yeah, like you having charisma plus 10 on Fallout or something like that.
Yeah, no, but exactly. People just can't help but, you start talking to them and they're just like... But, just, I don't know, just nice, sad story, And to somehow convince a villain to let you kill them in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you'll be better off this way. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's like, Jesus.
But I like that. I like that whole thing where they just took a moment, and even with the guy, because Vagabond was just such a easy-go guy in this whole comic, and before that as well, he never had one of these moments where anything got serious, and just I like the way that he was alone in this, so no one saw it, no one sees that there's something more to him than just hippie, stoner, drunk guy. Yeah, well, except Lifeline, sure, but I mean they're kind of separate from that whole thing, and then just the way that he sits down and just says, just has this whole thing like, no, guys, I need a minute, and I really like that. I just like that 3 or 4 pages that was. Damn, that was the best of the volume.
Well, it's just nice. I mean, it's one of those. I wouldn't say it's like, I mean, it is a sob story. But,
Yeah.
it didn't feel, it felt like, what's the word? Not casual, but it felt, I guess, generic enough that it was easily understandable,
Yeah.
but still enough like personality that we felt like, okay, this is a younger vagabond. Like, it didn't feel like it was just a totally different story that didn't fit. Like, you know what, I can believe this.
Right. Right.
And just the whole idea there, I just love the fact, I mean, that's such an awful scenario. Let's go. You're so drunk that your wife has to drive you, you and your daughter home. And she gets into an accident and they both die and you survive because you're drunk.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, oh, what guilt.
Right.
And again, and the fact that it's not, and I guess this is almost like with a lot of, I mean, this would be like either superhero or villain origin.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it was kind of like neither until he finally became what's called hardcore. But, it's like, it's one of those scenarios where, like, okay, a villain will, try to get revenge on, like, whoever did this or whatever. And a hero will be like, you know what, I gotta better myself and actually, stop these things from happening.
Right.
But instead it was, how's he phrase it? Yeah, it wasn't nobody to tell me not to get loaded now, so I didn't see any reason not to.
Right. But also, interestingly enough, he still didn't have, this is kind of also where I'm kind of thinking, well, then he hasn't actually changed as a character at all. All he needed was another person to come in and tell him not to get loaded anymore.
That's true.
So he would have just continued, probably smoking and drinking and lying on that bench until he died. Actually did die at some point. But no, someone else came in and gave him a way out. And sure, that makes him kind of a weak character, but
it's not his story. It's not his...
I know. It's not his story. That's what I mean. I don't think there could be like a vagabond...
Vagabond issue zero. Which I guess this was
there can't be anything like that because it's just a boring character. It's the character that a lot of people in real life are. They're just stoned all the time because they don't know what to do with their life and they need someone to come in and fix it for them. And no one's going to do that because that's not what other people are there for. So, yeah, with him, it's just like, okay, yeah, he got his chance and at least he's doing something with that chance that he got. So at least that's somewhat admirable, if you could call it that.
Well, again, this is also one of the reasons I really like team books a lot. I like Fantastic Four a lot.
Yeah.
And, I like Avengers and Justice League, but they don't have they're all so different, because they're joining up for this. I like it when it's a team from the beginning, because then you kind of base it around that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like that because you get a nice, how would we say? Well, you get a nice group dynamic already, and you have a lot of different characters, so you don't have to spend all the time on one character all the time. And you don't have to...
Well, that's the thing, the group dynamic is what started it all. It's like when you're creating a character, you are thinking about what this character is and what makes him interesting. And when you're making a group from the beginning, you're creating these characters so that they work as a group. With Justice League, all the characters were created separately and then pushed together. And then obviously, there are certain characters that work well together, and those are the characters we constantly see together. But, if you create, loads of, if you create characters by themselves and then throw them together into some sort of superhero group, there's a chance that the dynamic just won't work, or you try to make the dynamic work and then the fans of the actual original characters say that, well, those aren't really who they are as characters anymore. They've changed to fit this kind of group dynamic, and that's not true to the character anymore.
Yeah, well, that's always an issue. I always see complaints about whenever what's called character crosses over. Yes, that's like a cameo or like a quick thing. It's not like a crossover, but just Doctor Strange, is meeting up with Spider-Man in a Spider-Man issue. But then, if you're reading, it's not... But then the writer of the current Doctor Strange then isn't isn't writing in this issue. And maybe they didn't talk to each other really, besides making sure that... Is it okay, is he in New York? Can he come in? During this month?
Yeah.
But then, readers of both then might read and you know what, he's not talking at all like Doctor Strange should be talking. Or like acting, or, he's been dumbed down to fit into this, or made too serious to fit into this, or whatever. So that's something that can happen a lot when you have characters meeting out. And as you said, I like it when the group is made from the beginning.
Yeah.
X-Men too. How could we forget X-Men?
Well, of course.
But yeah, no, definitely. But speaking in terms of characters and stuff, then be honest. Did you remember Simon Orrick at all?
No.
Me neither.
But again, that's not like a testament to how good the storytelling is in this, because I forget characters that were literally in the previous issue.
Yeah, no, I agree, but especially with you.
Yeah, no, I had no idea who that guy was.
Yeah, no, I double checked to make sure, and good lord, it didn't feel like double checking unless I missed something that came in later. It did not feel like a good seed. I've heard people refer to it like that a lot.
Okay.
What's it called? He was in the first 2 volumes. He was the guy in charge, as they said.
Well, I assume so. I mean,
yeah, no, but he was actually there. It's not something from before, before we started reading.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I trust them enough. I mean, again, we're only at volume 5. I doubt they would not remember their own history at this point.
Oh yeah, that definitely. But I mean, it's more in sense for us. They could easily have said that this is an old guy from the 50s or something. What? Yeah, he's back. Yeah. And then it's a surprise for them, but he's new to us. But when I saw his reveal there was no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually checked after I read it. Yeah, he's the guy calling the shots in the first 2 volumes, and I saw his last panel in volume 2. It's in the last issue, and he's just Bloodshot's tearing up the whole Project Rising Spirit lab thing. He basically just runs off into a car and said, "Where to, boss? As far away from here to there, or whatever." And that's the last panel we see him in, and that was volume 2.
Yeah,
and there was nothing. There was nothing if he held a suitcase or something, or some kind of hint that okay, he's gonna try something himself later. It's nope, they just written out a story.
Well, again, maybe they didn't know that they were going to bring him back. Maybe they were writing the outline for this volume or for these issues, and they were like, "Wow, we need some sort of villain. Oh, let's get that guy back from volume 2 because we kind of left it open ended there, and then we can tie it together." I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it's again, it's like I said, it's not bad. It's just if it did not have that effect on me, as I said, the whole what?
Yeah, but
I didn't feel his characterization was strong enough in the first 2 volumes to make him memorable.
Yeah, but this is the kind of thing for me as well. I've never had that feeling, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one who has that feeling. I don't know. I've never had these what moments in comics.
Just never. Comics or?
Yeah, just comics. Never in comics. I mean, I've had them in TV shows. I've had them in movies. I mean, obviously movies are more easy because they're 2.5 hours and then that's it. Except for then of course sequels and stuff like that. But because they're such a smaller base, I guess. I mean, because with TV series, you watch the season week for week, or you binge it or whatever. So you're kind of fresh in it at all times. And it's stuff like that it kind of helps that you're just always in it. You're kind of, and you also know the actors. It's so much easier to recognize actors than to recognize comic figures.
Oh yeah, but we discussed that. It's the problem with the different artists.
Yeah, and with this, I mean, you can't do that same reveal because you don't have the actor come out. You don't have the characters being able to react to it. It's not that kind of a thing, So I don't know. I mean, maybe some people, once you guys tweet at us, tweet at us if you've ever had one of those moments in comics, because I don't think that's something that you can do really well in comics. unless it's like, of course, something really huge, like let's say Peter Parker comes back to like Miles Morales or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know the whole Spider-Man story right now, if Peter Parker's dead or what the whole deal is. But say...
well, the two universes merge, so now you have both.
Okay, well, yeah. What I'm trying to make the point that I'm trying to make is, you can have Miles Morales run around and then go to some place where he feels something is wrong. He goes down there. There's a guy in a hoodie. He turns around, pulls down the hoodie, and then even then, you have to say, Peter. Like the character Miles would have to say, Peter, to make the reader understand that that's Peter Parker, because obviously you can't show it on the other way, because it's not Andrew Garfield turning around. It's not Tobey Maguire turning around. We don't know.
It's like we said, there's very few characters that have like what's called iconic civilian forms.
Right.
So the only ones I can think of on top of my head is Tony Stark and Clark Kent. And that's really just like, details, a goatee and glasses and,
Right.
But that's
what I mean. Yeah. So that's what I think is that unless you use these really huge characters to make this reveal, I don't think you can have one of these wow moments, especially not for like these small time villains that we've met for one volume, or 2 volumes, I guess.
Yeah, no, but that's what my point about it. I just felt like Auric, because I just like quickly browsed through the first 2 volumes, just trying to see like, oh yeah, it is him. I recognize that hairstyle there. So they definitely, so he definitely had not like super distinct, but at least something of a more different kind of like design to kind of make him stand out. But the quick stuff I was checking there is like, you know what? There wasn't really anything. It was just an ass, like there was nothing interesting about him. Unlike Kosol, who like, he's this, well, I guess your mileage may vary on how lovable this asshole is. But, for me, he's kind of like Valiant's version of Zap Brannigan. Just, he's an awful person who gets away with everything and he thinks he's so great. And I don't know. I love that stuff.
Okay, then.
So I see myself. But all right. Yeah, no, that was just a while on that. But just to me, that was something I thought of immediately. So, I mean, since it's like the second page, and it's like, because I don't know, it's like the moment someone says someone's name, as you said, he has to say the name. My God, Simon Auric?
Right.
But it's kind of like, yeah.
And again, the thing was, for me, it was kind of weird because he was looking up at whatever his name is, Musclehead.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The eye line isn't really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if 2 guys were coming at me and one of them looked like that, I would be looking at him too.
Don't be rude. You don't know what condition he's in. But exactly, you're right. But it's still then.
So I thought that guy was Simon Auric at first.
So yeah, you're right.
I didn't even realize that the other guy was Simon. I thought it was the other way around, because, I don't know what kind of stuff happens off screen. It could be that this guy is some sort of guy that they experimented on, or another guy from from Hardcore, who then got some sort of powers, some Bane infusement or whatever, and became super strong. I don't know. Again, I have to come into every single issue basically not understanding who these characters are, because I forget it so easily. And also, we have to say we are reading every single volume, so I'm pretty sure we forget a lot of stuff. I mean, if we were reading Bloodshot completely through, we might have picked up on this stuff before.
Yeah, if you're reading it once a month, it might have been like easier in that sense. You don't have those breaks that we have.
Yeah. But seriously, how do people read these once a month and keep up with this stuff?
I do wonder sometimes too, because I don't know, because they're always talking about jumping on points and stuff like that. I mean, I think they even say that on the cover here, don't they? Well, yeah, all new arc must read Valiant, but yeah, it's like weird stuff. So it's kind of like because it's publishing constantly. It's kind of like you have to, again, yes, the word I used, the jumping on point. It's this weird thing of like, oh, there's ghosts, let's jump onto this, let's jump on this train, so we don't miss the next one.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to jump on the second train, because, then we don't know where it started. So we might as well wait till the fourth train or whatever, so it's then to a new destination. I don't know. It's maybe it doesn't work as an analogy.
But that's what I think is so weird. That's why I also think it's so much easier to be like a comic book film fan than a comic book fan.
Oh yeah.
And it's just this whole idea of being overwhelmed with this stuff. I mean, let's assume that I'm taking, let's say I'm going to read every issue of like my favorite comic book heroes. So let's say I'm reading some Valiants, I'm reading some Aquaman, some Captain America, throw some other stuff in there that's interesting. But think about it, that's about like say there's something like 6 or 7 different books that I read each month, like issues that I would read each month. I don't think I could keep up with all that stuff. I mean, it's so like, I mean, I can't even keep up with reading the stuff that we need to read for the podcast because I don't really feel like it is someday. I mean, again, it's the same thing with the New Yorker right now. I subscribed to the New Yorker at the beginning of the year, and I'm like 10 issues behind now because I just can't get to reading it. Whoa. I mean, one day I'm actually reading the New Yorker again, and I spend the entire day reading it, and it's so interesting. I can knock out an entire issue in a day, and then I'm immediately reading the next one, but then something happens, like, I don't know, a new podcast comes out, so then instead of reading the New Yorker on my way to work, I listen to the podcast. And then suddenly I don't read the New Yorker for another 2 weeks. And then in that time, 2 more issues come out, and I'm even further back. And I think that's the same thing with comics. I mean, the same thing with what happens with Aquaman every time is I read a bunch of Aquaman comics. I buy like 10 of them at a time, read them through, and I'm totally excited, totally love it. It's the greatest thing ever. Then I wait for the next comic to arrive. I never get it. And then by the time I wanted to go on again, there's another 20 more comics.
Yeah, no, but I know exactly how you feel about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just horrible. I mean, I'm pretty happy that we're doing this podcast, though, so that we can, or at least I can keep reading comics, because otherwise I think I'd never look at another comic in years.
So, yeah, well, you're going to be one of those, like, people who are, like, haven't checked out, like, the music scene since they were, like, teenagers. They go into, like, actually, that kind of person is the person who would go into a music store, not realizing there's better ways of getting your music. And then kind of asking about, have you got the latest of some old band that hasn't done anything in 10 years? So, like, over there in the oldies section. Oldies?
Why do you put them in the wrong category?
No, but that's the kind of thing. You're going to come in there and kind of be like, so what about the latest issues, of Bloodshot or something? So, like, Eternal Warrior. Eternal Warrior's dead.
Bloodshot. Yeah, exactly. What? How is Eternal Warrior dead? Dude, get with the times, man.
Well, let's continue then with the. I mean, again, I like these natural stuff here, like the natural stuff.
The natural stuff, yeah.
So, but yeah, we kind of have a circle yerking around it now. But But speaking then with we're referring to Auric and stuff. What do you think of like this new villain team? I mean, we talked a little bit about Chernobyl.
Yep. So,
but what do you look at? This is what I meant with I like the sort of superhero-ness of this first story. Because here's the superhero team and here's the villain team, and like how they lose their first fight and then they figure out a strategy to defeat the bad guys.
Yep.
So yeah, I like them. I mean, I felt their power sets were interesting enough. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. A little double page spread.
Yeah, the specialists.
Yeah, I mean that in itself, you just feel like, oh yeah, because they have to have a name, and code name. Yeah. It's not their villain name. It's their code name.
Yeah.
So
I think, especially, I mean, I really don't like that spread.
It's a little awkward.
It's a lot awkward, Humphrey. It's not just a little awkward. It's just horrible. It's horrible. I mean, how did this? No, seriously, how did this get through the editors? Or someone must have said it. I mean, someone must have said something. This looks like some person threw it together. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about the art. The art is great. I'm talking about the panel layout or the like the heads. What is with those heads?
Oh, you mean the top? You mean that the top panel there?
Yes, the top panel there, not the bottom. The bottom again. The art is fine. That's perfect. That's great. That's whatever.
Okay, I see what you mean.
It's horrible. I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, when you say it like that, yeah, it kind of you got the PSD file there, open, and you kind of forgot to put something there. I wouldn't say PSDs. I'm saying someone built this in PowerPoint. It looks so shitty. It's just like, why is it one head and then three heads? Well, I guess he's kind of like the leader guy. So
no. You can't. I mean, obviously, I understand that it's like the whole that you put the text box there, but there's so many different ways to solve this. You can't put the text box. You can't like have the title because all you see, you don't necessarily see the weird, like the whole text thing that he says. You see the logo, the specialists, big. Then you have a head, the logo, then three other heads. No. You have the logo and then the four heads. I mean, there's like, it's so badly done. Like you have the two heads with the text next to it, and then you have the other two heads with the text on top of it. Like if they're like, oh shit, we ran out of room. What do we do now? I mean, this is horrible. And for people who are artists to have this like printed, I don't know. I mean, even just looking at it, this is a two-page spread. And I'm thinking, where was the dent? What do you call it? The fold. Because I'm pretty sure the fold went right in the middle of that one guy's face, through Chernobyl's face.
Well, probably a little bit to his left, but yeah, not like a nice.
Yeah. Which again, I mean, if they would have made it so that then at least like the leader would be then on one page and the three others would be on the other page, I'd be like, okay, I understand this, but they're not even doing that. I mean, they could have done it so much differently. They could have made it look all cool and futuristic by like having profile shots of them, and I don't know, like you just have these profile shots and then just write their text or anything, kind of like this matrixy kind of how do you call it? Like in football. Actually, no, you don't know anything about football. No, but you know what I mean. Like when they have this 3D model of a person, and then they kind of give all these facts next to it. Like, yeah. You could have something like that, but in art, in like with these characters, but just with their faces. You could have their little datas, like the code name and their little powers and stuff like that. I really think that this was an afterthought that someone put in last minute. Because I don't think that the drawings were made specifically for these panels. It really does look like they were just edited out somewhere else.
I suppose it could be. I mean, I'm not gonna scour through the volume to see if I can find those faces.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't even think I remember seeing Chernobyl's face ever like that. Or even Big Boy's face. I've never seen him like calm like that. But I mean, they probably had it from a different issue or something like that. But what I'm just saying is that this looks like an afterthought, because I feel like if this was thought, if they wanted to put it in, they would have put it into the story or something like that. It's either that, or they drew the they drew the splash page and realized that they did the format wrong. And they couldn't make it bigger because all the people are on the sides of the picture, so they couldn't it just exploded up. So they're like, shit, now we have to put something on top. And they're like, oh, we can just put them, like explain who they are and put their powers in and stuff like that. I don't know what happened here, but it looks really bad, just bad. Oh God, no.
What's called? We're very sorry. Well, I mean, I just want to remind our listeners that, all the views presented here are not supported by all of Hardcast. So Bart's ears, if you ever want to, hang out and talk, that's fine. We don't have to invite Chris, the artist.
Yeah. But again, what I'm saying is, it's not. I don't think this was the artist's fault. I think this was an afterthought that was done after the artist had already. Honestly,
I agree with you.
Yeah, because again, if the artist had something to do with this, I'm pretty sure they would have drawn original pictures for those 3 or those 4 people, and they would have been more. it would have looked like they were actually meant, like they would have felt natural.
Yeah, no, but you're right. It's this. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think of it myself before, but maybe I was just like looking at, because it's weird. Like I do like the art and stuff, and like sometimes I will notice like interesting panel stuff, but honestly, a lot of times I'm just like I'm following the story. You know, it's like I'm very plot oriented when reading. But now that you're saying it, like this negative space, like it's very awkward because we have some of them crossing over a bit of the panel there. You know, what's called, some don't. It's a very awkward, empty space.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that like it doesn't feel natural either. I mean, if you look at the whole text, like what happens before it, I mean, someone does ask, "What are they?" But then it's so like it doesn't fit at all. Like to suddenly have these, I feel it would have felt natural if the leader would have said something like, you know, the whole thing what he said here, we're the specialists, we're what you could be one day if you lived, but while he was fighting. And then we could see shots of the other characters while they're fighting with their little text underneath them, like they did with all the other stuff that we have seen in all the other comics that we've had.
Well, yeah, like Unity Volume 1, when that Unity team, like the first one jumps out, you know, that's just a quick...
Right. But with this, it just feels so weird. And again, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the artist is to blame here or anyone else. I think it was a real, like it might have been an editing decision where they said, no, we need to have a splash page here. We can't have the original idea that we had. Maybe that was their original sketch idea where they were like, okay, well, let's draw a panel. Instead of drawing let's just draw like a paneled 2 pages. And then someone had the idea, no, let's just do a splash page. We don't have enough, we don't have enough money to pay for 2 pages of panels. Let's just do 1 big splash page. And then like, oh shit, but we don't have then the explanation of who they are. It's like, oh, hey, fine, let's just cut in some heads and that it'll be fine. I don't know if that was the decision, but I really don't think that the artist would have done this. Because the artist is good. I mean, I'm looking at the art. I mean, we're going to get to it later anyway. It's good art in this comic, and this page, this page 2-page spread is not good art. So yeah, I think we've talked a lot long enough about this. On to the next question.
Yeah, well, we didn't even really answer the question. I was going to ask more like what you thought of the team, and and I think we just went. I think I just went to that page so we could kind of like see their names and stuff, and there was like that whole. Don't you get me started on that page.
Well, okay, let's start from right to left. Sharpshooter seems very typical. I mean, I guess she also has that heightened mental processing power or something where she can see people's weaknesses or something. It wasn't really explained that well. Yeah, Big Boy is basically, as I said already before, Bane, just big muscly guy who. Yeah, but
I like the idea of the psychic source of it. You know, that it's actually like he's
I like
psychically stimulating his like normal body, you could say.
Yeah, and I love the whole thing with, you know, if it's not controlled, he gets like cancer and stuff like that. I think that's it's a really smart idea. Chernobyl is a little bit weird, but it's that typical, you know, thing problem. You know, it's the guy who has the powers that are useful, but he isn't like the hot superhero. You know, there's probably some sort of
like
superpower.
He's got a tumor hat on.
Yeah, but it's like there's some sort of like superpower that probably uses radiation where the person is then still like really hot and doesn't like hurt his like friends or family or whatever. And this is like it's like the thing, you know, everyone gets these cool superpowers and he just becomes a rock man. And so we've seen this before, but doesn't make it less bad.
It could have been worse. I mean, you know, he's got a bunch of tits growing on his head.
Oh God, one of those does look like a dick.
Oh no, I said tits.
Oh, because one of them looks like a dick hanging out the side of his head.
I feel like very like because there's like these like bumps with like look like the nipples.
Oh, okay, that's how you're looking at it. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it from like a big picture. You know, right on his forehead is the testicle.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
the dick's hanging off the side. Okay, and then of course the Cold War is just basically just a very typical superhero.
Well, he feels very. I mean, overall, I mean, I like that we just have a villain team.
Yeah.
Even though it was like very quickly disposed of in a sense. Like, that it didn't really feel like there's just a lot of like, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna see these guys again. But it felt a little bit like what's the word? Oh yeah, it felt a little bit like it was done by committee.
Okay.
Like again, not to what's called disparage, the writer and like artist and coming up with these characters. But
why do you think so?
I don't know, just it's a weird feel, like, and I don't mean it like in a terrible way. It's not like some other stuff you can see where like like marketing stuff where it's like, oh yeah, this is just pure numbers that they're basing this on.
Yeah.
But just I don't know, it's just because I've tried this myself. I was gonna say when I was younger, but like no, I still do it. No, but like coming up with superheroes like characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's always tricky. Again, that's why I love these groups, superhero groups, because you get like you get more bang for your buck. Instead of just one solo character, you get like a whole team with powers. Mm-hmm. But figuring out what powers to have is always very tricky, because like you don't want one to be too powerful, but you also don't want everyone to be the same, and stuff like that. And I don't know, just honestly though, I guess it's just Cold War that I have a problem with.
Well, yeah, because he's just such a typical, I have fire and eyes.
Well, yeah, cold manipulation of cold and heat. So, and by phrasing it like that, it makes sense that it's both. Because it's not so much that he has ice and fire powers. It's that he can manipulate the heat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you could just say that he has control over temperature.
So, yeah, no, I don't know. It's, I guess I just did a little, because honestly, especially like a Big Boy and Chernobyl are a lot more interesting in terms of like power set.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Big Boy is still pretty tame.
Well, the end result, yeah. I mean, in the end, it's just, as you said, Bane, Hulk kind of thing.
Yeah, he's just a strong guy. I mean, it doesn't matter like what the background of it is. I mean,
sometimes it does, though. Like with Torque.
No, it doesn't.
Like with Torque and Harbinger. I mean...
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, with this, it's still just a big guy. I don't know. I mean, I think if he has a way to... Like, if he has a resistance to his kryptonite, then it doesn't matter what the background is to his power, because it's not going to do anything about it. I mean, he has that little metal plate thing that keeps everything at bay, and that's it. Like, oh well, that's all. So the whole problem that he had with his muscles growing too big and his cancer cells starting to grow and all that stuff, it's moot now. So he becomes just a big strong guy. I mean, sure, that's like the way to defeat him probably, but it's the same thing with Bane. You just pull out the pipes and done. With Hulk, you just sing him a lullaby and he goes to sleep. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't know, but I just liked having like a super villain team. It's like I said, it's sometimes I have this. I'm surprised I don't read more of DC and Marvel, since I obviously like the more classic kind of stuff. So I am insisting on reading Valiant when they're a bit different, even if they have a lot of the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't really expect them to do or to constantly be different. I mean, they do a little bit different stuff, but there are certain things that you have to do, because certain stories can be told that way, and certain things you just expect to see in a comic. I mean, it's not like they're doing the same thing; it's their take on it. So I mean, they have this idea of psyop powers, and they need to connect now. Okay, well, let's get someone who's super strong, but he has to have this psyop power. Okay, so how can we explain it using our universe logic? And I like that. It's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I mean, again, it's like love Valiant. It's not that, but just if I want the more classic kind of stuff, why not just why not just read like the more classic stuff?
Right.
Oh. Speaking then before a little, just seeing the order I have of stuff here, but we have we had a lot of different artists in this book, not just in terms of like the issues themselves, but within the issues. So, did you feel it worked in terms of like it was a good like placement of them? Like it was saved for like flashbacks and special like scenes.
Honestly, I didn't really notice a difference in artists.
Oh, really? I mean, you didn't notice that? Like,
well, wait. I mean, just wait. I mean,
within the issue.
Well, yeah. Well, certain things I did. I mean, obviously there was a big difference between like some stuff in the first issue, to then the second issue. I mean, now that I'm looking at it, I mean, I did notice that there was differences. Because I felt the first issue was very cartoony. Like it looked very like I don't know how you say. Yeah, it's just very cartoony to me. Wait, no, I didn't. Oh God, this is so confusing. Where am I?
Well, it's the same artist for the first two issues, except for then these flashback scenes.
Yeah, well, because it looks so weird because somehow the quality of it goes down a little bit. Like I'm still within the first issue and the it looks so tight and sleek, like normal American comic, and from the first like page and second page and stuff like that, all the way to third, fourth, and stuff like that. They just all look really neat, just like the normal kind of comic that I'm looking at. But then suddenly in that
2-page spread.
No. I'm not going to go back to that. But like, yeah, almost page 18. I mean, Bloodshot already looks a little bit different. Kind of, he's drawn different. And then even page 19, they're drawn a little bit not as detailed. And then page 20, I mean, you look at Vagabond and he looks kind of off model and the lines are so thick or something. I can't explain it right because I don't have the lingo for talking about art in that way. But I feel that there is a difference between the end of the panel or the end of the issue and the beginning. I mean, obviously the flashbacks were drawn in a completely different style. This kind of looked like the old school Saturday morning cartoons, I guess you could call it.
I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not the best person to talk about art. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, at some points I did felt very cartoony. But otherwise, yeah, I did enjoy it. I didn't have anything against the art this time.
So, all right. And the same thing with with the issue 0, they had 3 different artists in order to depict the different time periods. And I like that stuff.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say disappointed, but you'd almost think that they would, because it's a comic and a superhero comic at that, that they would draw it maybe like in the style of the comics at the time. Like in terms of like again, I'm not saying that this was bad, but just wanted to, and I've seen it done before, so maybe that's why they didn't do it, because it's expected maybe.
Yeah.
But still would have been kind of interesting way of like, oh yeah, because it's the 70s, so it's drawn like that now. Oh, it's the 80s, and oh, it's the 90s. They're all drawn like Liefeld. Now, like, or Jim Lee or something, or heck, drawn in classic Valiant, since that's from the 90s.
That would have been fun, yeah.
But yeah,
every time they mention the 90s, I always think that they're referencing something from the 90s comics.
So, all right. But actually since we're talking about the sort of art still, I really like, let's see, I wrote down his name, El Barrio Nuevo. A lot of Spanish people in Valiant.
Well, isn't that a trend lately? Aren't a lot of Spanish artists working in comics lately?
I don't know. I mean, it's what's called, not that it matters in that sense, but
no, I've been listening to a lot of these these Valiant podcasts now. I've been listening to comic podcasts as well. I mean, I love podcasts, but I listen to the Nerdist comic podcast. I mean, they do talk about. I mean, the problem is that they don't update that regularly. I wish they would do it often, like they did at the beginning. But it's so interesting, and they talk about it so often. And one of the guys who hosts it, Ben Blacker, he started writing a comic. I think he wrote one of the Wolverine origin comics. But he was also saying that he was working with a Spanish artist, and they had to actually have a translator kind of work with them, or he understood English but not as well, so that was like a difficulty between them, that he would write in English and he would understand everything that they said, and then the Spanish guy would write back in like broken English, but they said they got along really well, but that was definitely a hurdle. But they did mention that it's kind of gotten normal for a lot of European artists to work on American comics as artists, not writers necessarily.
Well, yeah, because you had the British invasion thing with Alan Moore and Grant Morrison before.
Right.
So, okay, that's kind of cool to hear. Yeah, I don't know. It's, again, I don't know if it's, they're Spanish or Latin American or whatnot. So, but there does seem to be quite a few. So, because I remember last time, if it was last issue or like last volume or the one before, I also remember seeing like Spanish names. So that's pretty cool. So, I'm glad things are working out for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but I really liked his art because it's just the right level of detail and expression. Like it's very easy, I feel, for when you start rendering very heavily. Yeah. That everyone has very like, they're like, everyone has a very like basic faces, not in terms of design, but like expression. But like that one, like on his first issue here, like the second to last issue on page 110, that fourth panel, that close-up of Bloodshot, it's such a lovely expression.
Yeah, I have to say I did notice that as well. It was a very realistic drawing. I could really feel the emotion in him.
Yeah, but it's such a subtle thing too.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely. There's this concern, but not, this like dramatic concern, like, I'm worried about you. It's like, I can like hear the voices going like, even with the tough guy kind of voice, just going like, I'm worried about you, genius. So you don't have your head right. Just this, it's...
like a nice little Leonard Snart.
So, but yeah, it's, I don't know, it's like just very beautiful art. So, and then just scrolling through and then like, that big exploding head. But even that's like lovely. Though I gotta say, I mean, I'm sure Bloodshot knows what's going on. But it's just...
he had the nanites in there.
Yeah, but like he looks so unfazed in that first pan, like the reflection. It just kind of looks like,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, obviously, it's kind of hard to bring something like that across in comics, but if you do a slow motion video capture of a person watching something explode, like even like a balloon or something like that. I mean, the explosion happens and the person is still just like has their normal face.
Yeah, that's true.
It's only like I mean, if you look at it something like in slow motion, it takes so long for a reaction to happen.
Well, I mean, that's why
even like that could have just been his reaction to like the look that he was giving him before the explosion happened, and then that could have just been shot in time. I don't know how to interpret this, but
no. I mean, I think it's simply he realized immediately what's happened. Like, oh god, like it's like, oh, coastal menace.
Yeah, I guess.
So it wouldn't be in character to look horrified. Like he rarely feels like that. So, but that is like when you're looking at it, there, like, oh, good lord, and what's called. But this is also one of the things I really like with Bloodshot, though. I mean, not that they don't do this with other kind of characters like him in terms of these like healing factor guys, but the fact you have him dragging himself in the desert, and that he has this limit. I like the protein limit. It's an easy enough way to.
I do too. Yeah.
No, but it's like I don't think I'm not sure if I've seen much about that with Wolverine. If regenerating takes energy, so like if he doesn't have any energy, if he can, but here's like a very clear, simple thing. And then the fact that and this like really brutal, I mean, you get that like mountain lion or whatever it is, and then it's like, I mean, it's such a disgusting way to regenerate.
Well, think about the whole thing about him biting a chunk out of Bigfoot.
Yes, that's such a brutal but logical thing. It's like, You're running
Yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
protein,
come on.
aren't you, boy?
I mean,
It's like, oh, he ate. And it's not just biting, he actually ate.
yeah, and then the thing is also he like, I mean, yeah, he didn't only bite. He actually pulled a chunk out of him, and not only that, but also he then left some nanites there. I mean, how awesome is that?
Well, again, he's very
I mean, that was
versatile.
the whole thing. He knows his limits, but he also knows how to use them to his advantage, and that's what makes him kind of great.
Yeah, well, again, it's like he's very, because I think that's always the trickiness when you're making a solo character, like a superhero character. Because, sure, you can come up with whatever powers and stuff you want, but it's tricky then, like, figuring out, okay, what powers do they have, and then how does that, like, work for everything?
Right.
I mean, it's amazing how many characters they do have that, do work for that, but it's still, like, I don't know, it's like I remember reading an article about how Spider-Man is, like, the ideal power set. Remember someone arguing?
Okay.
Now it's like he was the right amount of strength. Like, he's way stronger than a normal human. So, so you get to do cooler things and can kind of explain away some of his more amazing feats. He can't fly, so he's still bound by physics. And like, I don't know, I'd like to find the article again. It was long ago though, like years ago. But it was just so interesting to read because just like, yeah, you know what? He does have like the right amount of powers so that you can be amazed at what he does, but also feel threatened, in terms of like the danger.
Yeah, right.
But just also is to like kind of discuss a bit like with the art and maybe a nicer discussion about panel layout. Page 122. So
okay.
Yeah, when the granite like flips and attacks.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that panel layout. Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just one panel, really. In terms of like, I mean, obviously not one panel, but one image.
Yeah, kind of.
So yeah, I mean, you see that they're going. And also interesting enough how they, in a way, have the first panel, which is like the bottom panel, but I mean, it's very well thought out. Because you read it perfectly.
Yeah, it's a perfect way of showing motion in comics.
Yeah, but consider this too, like, what do you normally, like, if we then, like, we've read, Palmer, okay, like, we've read it normally.
Yeah.
Like, it would suggest that we would read then, like, okay, she's jumping, she's shooting fire, she's shooting lightning, and then we look at the explosion, and then we look at her shooting that, because, left to right. But because you get this arc of her jump, we just naturally do it, despite the fact that, so we are reading in the quote-unquote wrong order, but it feels so natural.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. I mean, you can break that natural order by doing something like this. I mean, that's in understanding comics, isn't it?
So, yeah, I mean, that's
like
something...
He actually talks about that, like Scott McCloud actually talks about that in his book, or one of his books. And honestly, I didn't really notice that the explosion, like the smaller explosion, was its own panel until just now.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of
the shadow. Yeah, the shadow of that rock kind of.
Yeah, not super clear.
Yeah, it cuts out the blackness of the frame.
But even then it would suggest that if it wasn't there, it would suggest that the explosion happened in the first panel.
True.
So but if nothing else, it would be like this darkness. So this kind of natural, not cut, but like divide. It's just beautiful. It's lovely.
It is beautiful. Thank you for actually mentioning this.
I wouldn't say like a nitpick. Yeah, I mean, it's just a nitpick really, because it probably works better like this. But within the rules, so to speak, we technically shouldn't then see what's called the fire when she's firing the lightning.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easier. I was kind of like hiding it with my thumb a little bit just to see, like, and I think you do lose the line, so it doesn't feel like it connects. No, but it's one of those things, like, it really doesn't, like, it works. It's just like, technically it shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, to wrap this up, I do have one nitpick as well.
Yeah.
The location typography should maybe change a little bit, because I thought at first we were in Nigeria.
Mm.
Do you see it? Page 15?
Oh, yeah. Or isn't it Bodo?
Ooh, yeah, it's Bodo, but the D looks so much like an O. I mean...
Oh, that's what you meant by typography.
Typography.
I thought because we had that like kind of like cliffside thing, I thought you said topography.
No.
So I was looking at that page like, oh, okay, what's so interesting about the topography? Gonna discuss the topography in this book.
Typography. Yeah.
You're a big geography buff.
Yeah, totally. This isn't Bodo, Nigeria. This is, I don't know, Szechuan. Oh, God.
Yes, I know you're not happy with that meme. Oh, God. Oh, it's been an hour. Damn.
Yeah, so we might want to wrap up.
Yeah, and I had a few little things here, but these will just be then quick stuff because that was the main stuff.
Okay. Let's do a lightning round.
So, yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say that reading this stuff, again, like this one in particular, because of how it ends with him, leaving hardcore.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like, oh, right, it's, we're so far ahead now in the, like, current stories that it's kind of like, right, this happened.
He's already back to hardcore.
So, well, I can't say, about...
Ah, damn.
No, but, like, that kind of stuff where it's like, oh, yeah, right, this is something that happened. It's like I've discussed with you before about how it's kind of hard sometimes to watch, like, season 1 of a show. Like, take, like, Arrow, for example. I mean, like, watching Arrow season 1 again would feel very quaint. You're like, oh, right, wow, he's solo for the first few, episodes. Doesn't have half the town knowing his identity.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. It's like... so it's just kind of neat reading this again and like, right, and this is how that connects, and then, right, oh, cool. So yes, personally for me as a rereader, and just wanted to have a little trivia. What's called the like volume cover. So you can see like yourself on the like on the text there, the La Rosa with apologies to BWS.
Yeah.
So do you recognize this like cover?
I do.
So my shirt.
Yes.
So it's an homage to the very like Bloodshot issue 1 from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it says with apologies to, because the artist for that cover was Barry Windsor Smith.
Yeah. Speaking of apparel, Valiant, your merchandise store was very disappointing. I went on there after our podcast episode was finished editing. Damn, you have nothing for Eternal Warrior. Not a goddamn thing. So disappointed. And the hardcore shirt, also no. I mean, come on, guys. I was ready to pay money.
Yeah, just give him a hood.
I'm still going to pay money, but I'll buy some other stuff. But come on, man. No Eternal Warrior? All right, so we have here an homage.
So yeah, that's about it. So just, in case you didn't realize it or not.
Well, I guess I kind of noticed it in my mind because now that when you pointed it out, I mean, again, I don't really look at this stuff. I just kind of get to the comic so I can read it, so I can finish it, so I can go do my extra set before we do our podcast after I get home from work.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. And I mean, I recognized it when you then mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, saw that on your shirt.
And I just want to say I really love what's called the variant cover on page 171.
Man, you're making me scroll up and down the entire thing.
Yep.
171?
Yeah. So covered by Roberto de la Torre. Another Spanish guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good.
And it's just, I love, I mean, again.
It has a nice little film noir kind of feel to it.
Yeah, with the nice red. So, but it's... that was like I've said, it's my pet peeve with, covers that don't give any indication of the contents, besides, I guess, the character. But I do like when they actually make them nice then, like that they're actually like artistic.
Yeah, exactly.
So like I find a lot of, all of these were pretty nice, but I think it might have been one of the Eternal Warrior volumes. It was like just a close up of his face. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't look that interesting. And that's like a variant, so like you have to go out of your way to get this one, which honestly I felt was like a downgrade, you could say. But yeah, I guess that's it then. It's
all right.
It's kind of like a little we spent a lot of time on smaller things, I guess you could say.
So, yeah, like that one goddamn page with the stupid heads and sorry.
No, but it's fine. So it's good. Again, I like that stuff. But yeah, we do. I think we make our points, but then we kind of stay on them for a while.
Yeah, at least I didn't talk 5 minutes about. At least I didn't talk about Buffy for 5 minutes this time.
Oh yeah, yeah, we were pretty much on point except for talking a bit about Marvel and Aquaman and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. And now we're rambling again. Why don't you end the episode, Humphrey?
That was the 30th episode of Hardcast, detailing Bloodshot Volume 5. For more content from me and Chris, follow us on Twitter at Humphrey_Aaron and at Christian D. Claus. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or listen to us directly on valianthardcast.podbean.com. Remember to like us on facebook.com/valianthardcast. Catch us later for our next episode discussing Exo Manowar Volume 6, Prelude to Armor Wars.